Gold gets a boost on the back of a weaker U.S. dollar. Peter Hug joins us now. Peter, good to see you this Tuesday.
Nice to be here, Daniela.
All right, Peter. So does this U.S. dollar sell-off have further room to go, and what could it mean for gold?
Well, I mean, if the dollar continues to weaken, I think it's short-term positive for the metals. I'm not convinced that the dollar weakness hasn't run its course. The key level for me for the dollar would be the 110 euro. It hit there this morning, but bounced right off it, and we're now finding ourselves at 109 euro to the dollar. So, I still think the macro picture is for a stronger dollar. But however, if in the short term there's more profit taking, or if there's news that creates a sell-off in the dollar through the 110 euro level, there may be some short covering. Because the general trade is still considerably short the euro, and you may continue to get a bounce in the euro short term, but I do believe that's just a short-term phenomenon.
Peter, we also had two important data points come out today, CPI and PMI. Jonathan Butler over at Mitsubishi had this to say in his morning commentary about the CPI. He said the reading showed a 0% year-on-year inflation, but a move out of outright deflation. He says it's negative for gold in terms of interest rate expectations, but potentially positive for the metal as an inflation hedge in the longer term. Is this data, Peter, good or bad news for gold?
Well, I mean, I read it exactly the way he reads it. Short term, I think it's negative because, again, the perception will be the Fed's primary gauge on when to raise interest rates is going to be an inflationary gauge. So in the short term, the expectation would be that the Fed may move sooner. I am, again, totally not in that camp. I don't see the Fed moving at all until at least the fall, and I'm still possibly thinking 2016. But so short term, should CPI and inflation start to pick up, the short-term effect will be the Fed may move earlier, which would be a stronger dollar, which would be short-term negative for the metals. But we've said for the past couple of years now that the final leg in the metals market should be the inflationary leg, although we think it's still considerably down the road, possibly mid-2016 before there's issues with inflation. But when that leg kicks in, that would be very, very very positive for the metals. And so in that context, from a longer term perspective, should inflation increase, I agree with the commentator from Mitsubishi that it would be positive for the metals.
Peter, what's interesting is we saw gold start the year off well. Now we see it struggling to hit that key psychological level of 1,200. So how should one be trading this market right now?
I mean, Yellen was, again, brilliant last week on how she was able to remove the word patient but keep the concept of patience within her statement. She changed her dynamics to now take into account more the inflationary issue, trying to get the inflation number up to 2% as opposed to unemployment. So she's done a great job. And within that context, I think what she was doing subtly, maybe not so subtly, was trying to talk the dollar up. I mean, she's trying to not necessarily stop the dollar uptrend, but she's trying to slow it down. And I think she was very successful there. But if you look at the metals, I mean, from a North American perspective, there's just very, very little follow through here. The volumes that are going through on the physical market here are very disappointing. So, the short covering that occurred last week was totally to be expected. The market was overly short, both in the metals and obviously in the foreign exchange market against the dollar. And so you got a short covering rally. But the momentum is missing. And, I need gold to show me some momentum. I need gold through 1,200. Ideally, I need it through 1,225. Before I start taking a more bullish stance towards the metal in the short term. But overall, the market still looks weary to me and heavy. And, the path of least resistance, especially if the dollar stabilizes and starts to strengthen even slightly, is in my opinion, in the short term, still down.
Well, thanks so much, Peter. I appreciate that. We'll see you next week.
You're welcome, Daniela.
And thanks for watching this edition of For Pete's Sake. We'll see you tomorrow.